does one become an astronomer? How does one even want to become an astronomer?
Well, for me, it was a matter of just making the decision I was going to do something for a while that I would do for free. And trying to understand the workings of the universe was something when I was 17, and making the decisions about what to do for the rest of my life was the only thing I could think I was willing to do for free at the time. So went off to university, no intent of ever becoming an astronomer.
So hang on, so you decided at 17 that the thing to do was to do something that you would do for free?
I had no intention of becoming an astronomer. I assumed I would learn physics, and I'd learn engineering, and I'd learn mathematics and coding and all these useful skills, and I'd go off and get a real job. So
that's one of the best things I've heard of for choosing a career. When did you start doing the work that led to the Nobel Prize? Was it almost straight away?
So I started working in the field of cosmology for my PhD thesis, but the actual project that led to the Nobel Prize was hatched more or less in the months leading up to my move to Australia at the end of 1994.
Right, so that was part of a team, wasn't it?
Yeah, so when you're going to do something big like measuring the future of the universe, which was the plan, we're going to measure whether or not the universe would expand forever or stop in its expansion and go in reverse. That was the plan. I was going to need a huge amount of telescope time, have to analyze lots of data, needed to have a lot of human capital, and I was a 27-year-old postdoc, so the only way I could possibly do that was to essentially start a team that included all of my friends and mentors from around the world, and that's exactly what I did.
So what you ended up discovering was that the rate of expansion of the universe was accelerating.
That's right. That's the fundamental discovery, that the universe is speeding up in its expansion. Things are getting further apart, faster and faster over time. And in order to make the universe speed up, you got to have something that pushes things apart. And if you're going to push things apart, your only real tool across the vastness of space is gravity. We need to have gravity push rather than pull. And Albert Einstein in 1917 gave us the solution to this, something we now call dark energy. He called the cosmological constant, energy that is interwoven into the fabric of space itself, and it turns out it makes gravity push rather than pull.
And was there a particular moment when it struck you, where you looked at the red shift and thought, hello, something's interesting going on here?
So the first indication came in November of 1997, where my colleague Adam Rees, who won the Nobel Prize with me, sent me a figure and said, hey, what do you think of this? So I opened up the figure and looked at it and said,
what do you mean a figure?
Well, it's a graph, effectively, that showed the expansion rate of the universe as we were measuring it back in time. It was the first cut of the analysis and that we had been working on. And so when I looked at that, I could immediately tell that the universe seemed to be speeding up over time, which didn't make any sense to me. And so I literally called him up and said, oh, Adam, what have we done wrong? That was my first result.
Right. So you thought it couldn't be right?
No, I couldn't possibly be right. You know?
How could it be speeding up?
Exactly. It's sort of like, you're throwing a ball up in the air and having it take off into outer space. It's more or less the ridiculousness of it. And so I just assumed for several months that we had made a horrible mistake somewhere along the line. So it's really about a 3-month process where you work on it to realize there's no way this is going away. It's just in the data and we have made no mistake. But that does take time. And so you don't have a eureka moment. You simply have a slow realization that you're part of something potentially amazing. But there's always this lingering doubt because you're getting rid of all of the words of Donald Rumsfeld, the known unknowns. But the unknown unknowns are always there, and you're always worried about them, somehow something cropping up that you just can't think of.
So at the age of 27, you were actually put in charge of this team of 19. What did you learn quickly about leadership itself?
Oh, lots. You sort of learn by mistakes. People come in all shapes and sizes, but the best way to lead is to understand, especially when you, like me, had no authority whatsoever, just enthusiasm and a common purpose. But you need to see the world through your collaborators or to your colleagues' eyes. You have to understand what motivates them. You have to understand why and how they're going to react to decisions you make. And in the end, you have to try to appease as many people as possible in some sort of optimum strategy. And when you do have to make hard decisions, you need to really make sure people understand why you're making the decision. And in the end, it ultimately comes down to trust. You have to act in a way where they trust you. They trust you with their future, because if they don't, it's not going to work.
As Vice-Chancellor of ANU and Nobel Prize winner, you have a leadership role in science in Australia. So what do you want to achieve?
Well, in my case as the national university, I need to be a national university. I need to be a university that is different from the rest of the universities. And so we're going to be, really focusing on why we're a national university. I really want to make sure that we provide education to Australians in a way which is truly world class. I want people, when they come to ANU, to understand that they're getting an education that's as good as any place in the world. I went to Harvard, it's a great place. I want to provide an education that's every bit as good as Harvard, and I plan on doing that. And I think it's absolutely achievable, and we're almost there already. So that's goal number one. Goal number two, we need to be absolutely excellent at a world standard in the research we do here. And so why? Because that research excellence underpins our ability to influence and to help society, to the greater Australian society. That research excellence is going to give us new ideas and technologies to do startup. It's going to allow us to do research that's useful for current businesses, and it's going to allow us to train the best minds in Australia to go out, develop the new ideas, and to help the companies and the government and NGOs and every other part of society keep Australia as this incredibly, this incredible society we are in, that is simultaneously a great place to work in and incredibly prosperous.
Thanks very much, Professor Schmidt. It's been great talking to you.
My pleasure.